Phoenix Contact enables the industry, for any number of production sites, to collect requirement data, process data, and energy data, and to evaluate that data at one central location. In this way, power generation, storage, and consumption can be balanced optimally, not just for one factory, but for entire industrial networks. For this purpose, Phoenix Contact offers highly secure, web-based platform solutions that also enable remote maintenance of machines and production plants. Maintenance times, system failures, and system downtimes are minimized, and CO2 emissions are reduced significantly for even more efficiency and sustainability in production.
Українська армія успішно наступає на півдні України та на Донбасі. Перемога здобувається кров'ю наших воїнів. Просто пам'ятайте, зараз кожної миті мирні Київ, Львів, Хмельницький, Черкаси, Чернівці починаються в Бахмуті, Херсоні, Криму. Вже вдруге енергетична бізнес-спільнота оголошує благодійний аукціон. Це інвестиція в наше майбутнє. Всі кошти від продажу лотів будуть передані Збройним силам України для зміцнення бойової міці нашої армії. Кошти від попереднього аукціону вже працюють на перемогу. Допомагайте Збройним силам України. З нами Бог, з нами генерал Валерій Залужний та наші титани українське військо. Дякуємо всім, хто допомагає. Ми сильні, коли ми разом.
Good morning, everybody, or probably good afternoon, because it says 11:59 on my clock, however, maybe a bit later. Welcome to the second panel discussion of the second day of the Energy Security Forum, which is the crowning event in more than 90 events that the Energy Club has conducted during 2022. And it brings together, of course, most respected specialists in the field. What we are going to discuss now is the issue of the gas market in Ukraine. And I'd like to thank our partners, the Ukrainian Energy Exchange, the Nadra Joe Invest Limited Liability Company, the Phoenix Contact Line Limited Liability Company, the Energy Suppliers Association, and of course the government of Germany, because the event is supported by the German government as part of the project promoting energy efficiency and the implementation of the EU Energy Efficiency Directive in Ukraine, which is being implemented by the German government company GIZ. Considering the importance of the issue that we are talking about, we do not set the strict time limit. However, the audience research shows that 7 to 8 minutes is the optimum time to keep the attention span of the audience who will be watching this recording on the YouTube channel of the Energy Club, as due to the complicated situation with the energy supply in Ukraine, we are holding this Energy Security Forum 2022 without online broadcasting. So, the state of the gas market of Ukraine in the conditions of war. And war, of course, is one of the key words. And I would like also to mention that on the 24th of November, the Ukrainian Energy Exchange, the Association of Gas Traders of Ukraine, the All Ukrainian Energy Assembly, and the Energy Club business community will be holding a charity auction on the exchange. All funds from the sale of 4 exclusive lots will be transferred to the needs of the armed forces of Ukraine. I see that we are being joined by many people. Please, those who do not speak at the moment, who are not speakers at the moment, please mute your microphones. Yes, thank you, Mr. Ramazanov. And the first person I'd like to invite to speak is Predrag Gruzicic. He's head of gas unit at the Energy Community Secretariat. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Kulikov. Thank you very much for inviting me to say a few words today. First of all, of course, I would like to stress our sympathies and our support that we, given of course the limits of what we can do, are offering to Ukrainians, and again to praise your heroic resistance and professionalism in this war times. That your, after all, gas operators are exercising their duties as requested per law in professional manner, and they are still enabling the transit, very limited transit of the gas through Ukraine in an uninterrupted manner, which is really a success, a great success in its own right. Also, I would like to praise the efforts of the storage operator to enable its storage capacities to other market operators also in the neighboring countries. And this is, for example, very important for one of our energy community, also vulnerable country, which is Moldova. So first, I would like to say big thank you for your professionalism. And then, of course, because the topic is gas market during the war, you understand that Energy Community Secretariat, on one hand, has absolutely full understanding and sympathies. On the other hand, we need to still objectively report and monitor what is happening in Ukraine. And we are about to publish our implementation report, annual implementation report, which comes out every year, usually in November, December. And Ukraine, if you remember, in the last couple of years was the leader in the reforms in the gas sector and in many other sectors. This is still the case. Ukrainian indicators of how market is functioning, or not only how the market is functioning, but also all other pillars of the regulatory framework, which are very important, from security supply framework to third-party access framework to implementation of unbundling, and then functioning of the markets, are still better than in other contracting parties, which speaks in itself, is the gas market functioning well in Ukraine or not. On the other side, we saw that nearly all indicators showing this market health, if you want, decreased this year in Ukraine since the war started. And I think this is, of course, to be expected. As I said, we need to be objective and to praise efforts where there were, and to invite the government and all the stakeholders to start reforming of the market, or getting back to where it was once only a couple of months ago, when unfortunately this reverse of market reforms started in February with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So first of all, I would like to say that the unbundling of the gas TSO is, of course, one of the most important features that we are looking into. We have some concerns there. The government will probably change the structure of the company. Our main concern is to sustain, to enable financial stability of the gas TSO. This is our main concern. Gas TSO is very important, not only for the short-term transit obligations, not only for the transport of natural gas in Ukraine, but also for the very future, for the very, very important midterm and long-term investments in this sector, which on one side will probably lead to decommissioning of some unnecessary assets. On the other side, we need to find funds for repurposing of these transmission system assets for decarbonized low carbon gases. So this is one important thing. Financial sustainability of gas TSO must be sustained. The second problem is what we saw is that some transparency requirements are suspended because of the martial law, so we cannot fully follow what's happening with the gas markets in Ukraine. Then we can say that still third-party access and regulated framework, regulated tariffs are in place. We saw some drawbacks in implementation of network codes. They are in principle transposed within some limitations, but not fully. Most notable is still postponement of full implementation of the balancing code. When it comes to regional interconnectivity and security of supply, Ukraine is doing relatively fine here. We know that there will be a new draft law implementing the regulation on 10E. And then, of course, we need to talk about wholesale and retail market developments, which are not so brilliant. As you said, Ukraine was deregulating completely the prices for households and the district companies. It was really fully open market only last year, but with the new public service obligation, which obligated Naftogaz to actually practically supply nearly all segments of Ukrainian society, small enterprises, big enterprises, district heating companies, households. Of course, there is a monopolization in retail and wholesale market. REMIT is still not implemented, which of course is an obstacle to functioning of the proper functioning of the gas market. There are still some traders set aside Naftogaz being active in Ukraine. There are still some foreign operators injecting, as I said, or now withdrawing gas from the storages in Ukraine. And there were some quantities still traded at the exchange, but this is really in very limited scope. So I think that we need to acknowledge that the gas market reforms stopped. They are now in reverse. And as soon as possible, when the war is over, we need to rethink not only to transpose and implement what is already being there, to update this, to implement decarbonization package, and to go on and to open the new chapter of Ukrainian gas market, which will be not only transit based, but it will be production based and maybe export based, including low carbon gases. I forgot to mention that sadly, Ukrainian government also imposed a gas export ban. So you cannot export domestically produced gas from Ukraine. In principle, I mean, of course, this is not from the point of quantities which could have been affected. This is not such a big issue, but it tells a story about how market became underwhelmed and with the state interventionism, which is, I have to say, also happening to a certain extent in other countries. So Ukraine is not such an exemption, sadly. I mean, it happens also in member states. I can give you some examples about Hungary, Croatia, Romania. So the gas market is not functioning properly in many countries, and in Ukraine, of course, because of war. I think we have to acknowledge that it simply cannot function the way it used to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the close attention that you pay to our situation. Thank you for the exactness of your terms and conditions that you shared with us. And thank you for the sympathy and compassion. The next person who is going to speak represents one of the partners in organizing this discussion. He's Yevhen Natsvin-Stepanov, the first deputy chairman of the board of the Association of Energy Suppliers. Please go on.
So I would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak and to tell some, to highlight some points on how we see and the view of our association on the natural gas market through the wartime. And I would like to start by saying that any war is the intention to seize territory and resources. While our military is protecting our borders, the energy workers must protect our resources and our infrastructure. The energy crisis in Europe is the direct result of the aggression and manipulation of our enemy. Gas blackmail, price fraud, and shutdown of suppliers are the instruments by which the aggressor country is trying to subdue Europe. Ukraine in this energy chess game is a key figure, and not only its territory. We are a country with one of the largest energy potentials in Europe. And this is not only about electricity or hydrogen generation. Ukraine is the largest gas storage facilities has. Which means we can storage gas for European countries. We are in second place after Germany in terms of length and branching of gas networks. Also, our country is in second place in terms of production potential after Norway. Our gas deposits are now estimated at 1.1 trillion cubic meters level. While military forces with HIMARS, Bayraktars and Javelins are the strengths of our army, the reform of the energy market, in particular the natural gas market, is our weapon to defend the energy front. And so I would like to summarize some problems that we have now on our market. And I would start with the speech that we no longer have any money. The household sector, budget consumers and heat producers, so-called protected customers, are fully monopolized by Naftogaz. Public service obligation, in fact, does not comply with its objectives and goals, acting with subjective conditions. There is no balancing in essence, but everyone pays for it. There is no consumption and production forecast in gas, and so we don't always know how to prepare for tomorrow. And no one is moving towards ensuring that we have it. The market has actually returned to the stage of year 2015 or even to earlier stages. And also what problems we have. Signs that our market is unhealthy is that we don't have clear and transparent prices. The state production resources is not sold in the market. The margin has increased, and all these risks suppliers put into its price. Nobody will benefit from this, neither the market nor the suppliers or the customers. The sale of state-produced gas is not openly carried out at all. It is unprofitable for private companies to sell gas due to export restrictions. And how we think it should be. Gas sales should be carried out exclusively through the transparent exchange mechanism, with equal access to the resource for all suppliers. Moreover, this should apply to both state production and private production. Ukrgazvydobывание should sell its resource on its own and get the maximum effect from the sale by developing production. And the gas release program should start. If there will be no free sale of the resource, there will be no market at all. And the next one is that over the past year, we had at least 6 gas prices on the market. Prices for the population, prices for heat producers, price for bread and milk producers, the price for industry, the price for budget organizations, etc. But there should be only one price in the market. Public service obligation as a temporary measure is an opportunity to support consumers in difficult times. But after the end of the war, public service obligation should remain in the past. Moreover, there are many questions about the form in which we have implemented it. and how we think it should be. Firstly, the state should clearly fix in which areas public service obligation can operate and clearly describe the category of consumers that can be protected by the PCO mechanisms. This will avoid manipulation in future. Secondly, PCO cannot impose conditions on market participants. How can one set a condition for receiving gas under the PCO 100 level of settlements if the population pays at least at best 50% of its cost? For many years, we have been living without a focused gas balance, and the balancing service is carried out only on paper. It is necessary to create such an entity as the market operator, which will be responsible for compiling and maintaining the gas balance of Ukraine and the function of commercial balancing. Ukraine had a plan to switch to full-fledged daily balancing in accordance with the target model that works in Europe. If we switch to the target model, this will ensure a transparent release of the resource into the market and transparent price formation, which again minimizes the risk of manipulation. The importance of normal balancing mechanisms should not be underestimated. It would ensure regular sales of gas on stock exchange and price that is understandable to everyone. When building a European market model, there is one weak point: the low level of the average income of average Ukrainian. Therefore, we must provide insurance mechanisms for consumers. One of them is subsidies. Direct state support for consumers would avoid complicated formulas and also direct state aid to those consumers who really cannot pay the market price for gas. An individual approach to subsidizing will reduce the cost of PCO reimbursement from the state budget, because assistance will be provided only to those consumers who really need it. What else is bad about the social price of gas? As long as gas is very cheap, the consumer will never save it. But we must gradually accustom the consumer to the need of economical use of the resource. The mechanism of individual subsidization will gradually prepare consumers for real market prices and make this transition smooth. And another important point that I would like to highlight is much of what is being done with regard to the gas market is moving us further and further away from the market and expanding the monopoly of Naftogaz. No one understands what the next step of the government or the regulator will be. Many of our problems are connected precisely with the lack of understanding of the policy and actions of the state. Therefore, we strongly ask for predictability in matters of the gas market and in the methods of its development, and the involvement of market participants in the joint development of rules and policies for the future. So at last, I would like to end the war inflicted huge damage on Ukraine. It also reset the old rules and approaches. Today, we have a chance to build a new market without flaws. I think this opportunity should be seized. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for this honest explanation of your messages and ideas. I am sure they have been heard and they will be heard in our further discussion and in the actions of players on the market. The next person to speak is Roman Shikirynets. He is head of the Regulatory Activity Department of Gas TSO of Ukraine. Please, Mr. Shikirynets. Well, I see the icon with his name, but he doesn't answer. So let's hear from Mr. Ramazanov, I've seen him before, Vladislav Ramazanov, head of the expert group for security of supply and development of competitive natural gas market of the Directorate of Oil and Gas Complex of the Ministry of Energy.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak in this energy security forum. I want to say that from 1st of March 2022 till April 2023, the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine on approval of the regulation of special obligations of natural gas market entities to ensure the public interests in the process of functioning of the natural gas market was adopted. The document was approved by the government in connection with the military aggression of Russian Federation against Ukraine to ensure a reliable and safe supply of natural gas and safety and of functioning of natural gas market of Ukraine. The document stipulates that the supplier of the last hope is obliged to supply natural gas to consumers who do not belong to the category of household consumers and perform vital functions to ensure the defense capability of the state, according to the list approved by the Ministry of Energy. Upon submission, special list. The supply of natural gas by the last hope supplier to consumers according to this list of consumers is carried out of price as 32,000 hryvnias. Ukraine, together with Europe, is preparing for a difficult heating season and takes into account all possible scenarios that Russian Federation can implement. Therefore, the mechanism of public service obligation provides such conditions. For residential consumers, suppliers must conclude a contract with the gas supply company Naftogaz Trading to provide their residential consumers with a gas at the price of the basic annual offer of such supplier, which was in effect of 24 February 2002. This mechanism for providing consumers will be in effect until 30 April 2003. Gas distribution system operations, they buy gas from Naftogaz of Ukraine in the amount of regulatory and production technological costs on price 7,000 hryvnias for 1,000 cubic meters of gas. Also losses caused by military actions and incurred in connection with the prevention of humanitarian crisis situation. Excessive losses and production and technological costs at the price calculated by a formula based on spot prices of gas market of Slovakia and taking into account the cost of gas transportation from Slovakia to Ukraine. Also, the mechanism will operate during martial law and for 6 months after termination of this war period. Non-household consumers performing vital functions to ensure the state's defense capability. According to the list, heat energy producers, Naftogaz of Ukraine will purchase natural gas from Ukrgazvidobывання and Chornomornaftogaz gas resource for domestic consumers and heat energy producers to further ensure compliance of Naftogaz trading. And this Naftogaz trading supply this gas under obligation until 30 April 2023. Also, the Ministry of Energy models with gas transportation operator and gas storage operator forecast balance of natural gas resources on annual basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this detailed presentation, which puts us into the context fully, I believe. If Mr. Sikirinis has rejoined us, I call him to the floor, to the mic. Yes, yes.
Hello, dear colleagues. Thank you for invitation. Sorry, I didn't prepare such informational presentation to you, but I have some bullet points I would like to inform you. And first of all, as usually and as a mission, gas transmission system operator want to declare its main aim to build market-based business rules on gas market and to develop all EU best practices and regulations to be a part of EU natural gas market. But now, by this time, we, not we, but all our country is in a war period, and to talk about post-war recovery, which is a subject matter of today's meeting, I would ask you to make a small pause and just to revise what are the results, maybe not from March 2022, but from the start of a new unbundled transmission system operator of Ukraine start its activity from 1st of January 2020. By this time, we have a huge depth on natural gas market between TSO and market participants. Such debt is near 32 billion hryvnias. It consists of 12.3 billion hryvnias TSO debt and 19.7 billion hryvnias supply of last resort debt. To make and to build a new future market-based system and not to cope with this problem, as for me, it's a great mistake. And first of all, I would like to maybe to discuss with you or to hear your recipe of luck, how we can cope with such debt and how we can cope with unauthorized offtakes from a system, not to create such debts in the future. I perfectly understand the position of Ministry of Energy. They are in a very hard position to cope with the system, not only gas system, but also electricity system, and to develop the situation to ensure the whole country, all kinds of consumers with gas, with electricity. But let's talk about the price of such activities and who will be a donator of such activities. By this time, we have a public service obligation, as was already mentioned, but 6 big DSOs are not involved in balancing group of public service obligation supplier, and they offtake gas from gas transmission system, and such offtakes are unauthorized offtakes. We have situation when we have vulnerable consumers, for example, electricity producers, which according to the order of Ministry of Energy are vulnerable. They cannot be disconnected. They shall be insured with gas to produce electricity, but supplier of last resort and public service obligation supplier is not fulfilling its obligation, and we have unauthorized offtakes. Who will pay for this gas, and how we can cope with this? So I perfectly understand that our mission is to start developing our system, not only a system as a system of pipelines, but also a system of relations of market participants in a proper market-based business rules and according to the European practice, but not coping with the problems of unauthorized offtakes. We will not build a perfect model, and we will we cannot declare that we introduced in Ukraine a perfect balancing or daily balancing system. I really appreciate the role of ministry. I really appreciate the role of energy suppliers and their association. Now, operator is in a not good financial situation to cope with all imbalance charges, positive imbalance charges and have some debts before the market participants. I really appreciate their position not to start court cases and to give operator the time to cope with financial problems. According to the last resolution of NRA, the neutrality mechanism was postponed, but be sure operator, gas transmission operator already introduced such principle in its financial cooperation with the all market participants. All money we received from imbalance, negative imbalance charge, we receive to cover all our obligations on positive imbalance charge and to cover previous debts. We suppose such cooperation with energy suppliers will give us opportunity to cope with debts up to the end of next summer, I suppose. And the main thing is to give opportunity to gas transmission system operator and to delivery system operator to maintain system in this war period and to start post-war recovery period with the solution of problems I already mentioned. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Acute questions, sharp issues, and I'm sure this causes the great attention of those who listened and will watch this video on YouTube channel. And now Andriy Mezovets, the president of the Association of the Gas Traders of Ukraine, one of the partners in organizing this forum.
Greetings to the participants of the forum. I'm very glad to see and hear everyone at one of the most significant moments in the history of our country. And I should correct one of the previous speakers because war started in 2014, not 2022. So I'll try to briefly outline the current state of affairs and the issues that will certainly face us after our victory in the war. But we have to think about their solutions today. So if we decide to continue moving towards the European future, the authorities need to start honest communication with people without current populism. I will explain in more detail. The energy we consume has its price, and this price is high now. And this is especially true for those types of energy that Ukraine doesn't produce enough and has to import. Yes, we're talking about gas. So everyone has to pay the market price. The role of the state is to support those who cannot do it, including through rent payments, taxation of excess profits, etc. Also, a strategy of post-war energy of Ukraine should be developed using all opportunities that have become available to us. I mean, intensification of gas production, maybe small nuclear reactors, green energy, energy storage systems, and of course, energy efficiency. We must use not 100, we must use 200, 1,100% of all the opportunities that will be provided by our partners. Such chances are rare. After our victory, it's necessary to return market relations to all segments of the gas market as soon as possible, namely gas supply to the households and for the heat production. Otherwise, we will remain partly a European country and partly Venezuela, I think. Very important aspect is honest and transparent metering. We must be sure that the energy balance of the country is correct and not based on assumptions on guesses. As for the current market model, it should be modernized. This is especially true for the work of the TSO. The issue of the balancing, which is more like an indirect tax, I think. The introduction of the principle, on the principle of neutrality of balancing, there are just a few of the main tasks that need to be addressed. Once again, I emphasize that the introduction of changes should be a dialogue, not a monologue. Market players are always ready for discussion, taking into consideration their best practical experience. I would like to see the same willingness to communicate from those who have to make decisions. One example of recent communication is the issue of reintroducing of the insurance gas reserve and storages. Several organized discussion of the process, I hope, allowed to the state to understand that this is the road to nowhere, and that it will be only complicate the work, and at the same time will not protect consumers. Summing up, I can describe everything that awaits us in a few words: strategy, dialogue, and result. Thank you. I tried to be briefly.
Yeah, you were brief and convincing, and thank you for the formula that you offered in the end of your intervention. And now we have to hear from Inna Antipova, who is the director of the ENGIE Energy Management, Ukraine.
Hello. Yep.
Yes, we can see you, we can hear you.
That's perfect. So thank you. First, thank you for inviting. Second, it's so good to be there and to see familiar faces and to participate in this interesting discussion of the gas market in the state of war. So probably I would like to give you a little bit of view of European player. As a European player, we can certainly have access not only to, we have a more so to say big picture, not only in Ukraine but also in Europe, what is going on and what is the position and the attitude and the mechanism that we as the European gas players may use at the gas market. So it is true that the situation at the gas market is difficult, obviously, and this is actually what we have just discussed with all the situation. But there are some, I would say, some positive signs from the European market, from non-residents, and you know that actually some European big players started storing gas in customs warehouse regime in Ukraine, which is already a good sign. Of course, that is not so. The trend started, I would say, probably in September, or maybe even earlier, a little bit in August. So a few big companies started injecting gas in storage. Of course, that is not. I would not say that it is a long-term that is a long-term storage. This is rather, so to say, quite short-term storage to catch the trend, to catch the spread. But this is also a good sign that European gas players believe in reliability of the gas storages, believe in reliability of the storage operator, which is indeed a very good sign. And the more companies come, the more positive signs are for some other companies. And also we notice that we see, and this is what I hear from my colleagues here in Europe, that they also notice that the work is done by the storage operators. So in parallel, and notwithstanding their difficulties of the situation, the work on improving the platform, on introducing some new features, some new mechanisms is ongoing. And this is also really appreciated. Of course, now a Ukrainian market is not attractive for gas import, because of the spread, because of the prices, because of the absence of bigger consumers due to obvious reasons. The consumption in Ukraine of industrial customers is not big. So of course it makes the situation very difficult for European gas players, because actually you do not have any potential reasons to import the gas. But and this is also quite a positive sign, is that some biggest Ukrainian companies try also to participate in the European markets, and this is the trend that we notice, and they are very welcomed there. And actually, we believe that it could also be a sign of, so to say, maybe a little bit restoration of the gas market of Ukraine. So we know it, at least a few Ukrainian companies that were registered, that started at least set up at the European markets, at the European exchange. So this is also something that could make a good trend for the future, that could make a good that could be a good step forward for Ukraine, for making the connections between European gas market and the Ukrainian gas market stronger and stronger. Probably I would say a few words about, in general, European gas market, as Ukraine is a part of it to a certain extent. So it is not only difficult days for gas market in Ukraine, but also difficult days for European gas markets. That's true. And I'm not even talking about the prices. Also, the prices are very high, and we all know that. There are even, but also in terms of regulations. So more and more governments in Europe, they adopt, so to say, crisis regulations. So the regulations that would seem to be non-acceptable in any other circumstances, but given that now we are in a kind of ideal storm, as many analytics and people say, it is true that the governments do adopt unprecedented measures in terms of taxations, regulations, and there are even such ideas that TTF should be kept. So we, as European gas players, we do hope that this will not happen in practice, because that's a very complicated issue and that would have huge consequences. But it is also to give our listeners a feeling of what is going on, and that it's not only the problem for the gas market, but also the whole European gas market is, I would say, is a kind of turbulence and in kind of crisis. And this is something that we should overcome together. So that's it.
Thank you very much, and thank you in particular for ending on a optimistic note, because if we have to overcome something, we shall overcome. Now, dear participants, there's enough time left to ask questions one of each other. If you want to address questions to anyone on the panel, I'm going to allow it. Otherwise, I have several questions to the participants. So if no one volunteers to ask their own questions, I have a question for Mr. Kružicić. After your introductory, very substantial and very clear-cut speech, we had quite a lot of criticism towards the Ukrainian gas market. So do you believe that the gas market exists in Ukraine at all?
Thank you. I was expecting this very provocative question. Yes.
As long as you were expecting it, it's not very provocative.
True. Well, what to say? Of course, the gas market in Ukraine is functioning in very limited scope. It has unconceivable limitations imposed by external factors, and of course, the government was doing what it meant it was the best for the moment. The gas market in Ukraine is, of course, as I said, Ukraine is still giving all other indicators, which are not only market, because the energy community is not only about market, it's also about the framework, which would lead to market functioning. You can have the best setup for market, like Albania has everything done properly, but it doesn't have a market, it doesn't have any supplies, so that it doesn't have problems. But it's not the point. The point is that Ukraine, sadly, from the very, very high scores, is going into downward trend. And the point is that it was expecting that it would do so after the Russian invasion. So the gas market in Ukraine is hardly a market, but I can say that also you can say this for many other contracting parties which never had anything more than what Ukraine has now. And even in some member states, you can see high limitations of how market is functioning. There are many countries in Southeastern Europe, in the European Union, with also very strange public service obligations and so on and so forth. So the gas market is functioning in very, very limited circumstances, which, as I said, are imposed by the external factors. If your question is, could government do better? Probably it could, but at that moment, they probably needed to do something on these lines. This is why we are not opening any investigations at the moment or opening any cases against Ukraine, because we think it would be in a bad taste. But we are keeping our dialogue with all Ukrainian stakeholders, and my director and then his deputy they were last couple of weeks ago visiting Kiev for 7 days, and they saw the really very concerning situation in Ukraine. But I have to say, if we are very much concerned about the gas market, what should we say about the electricity market in Ukraine, where you have devastations of all kind to the electricity infrastructure, at least, and let's hope, let's pray that this will be the case. The gas infrastructure is relatively not damaged in Ukraine, and still Ukraine, as I said, because of storage operator, because of transmission system operator, they are delivering gas to Europe. They are delivering gas to Ukrainian citizens with only maybe 5 to 9% of the customers out of the grid. This is really you know, we have to look both things. You know, security of supplies now, of course, preceding all other concerns. We need to talk about market as soon as possible, as soon as the war, even before the war is over, to back it where it was only a couple of months ago. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And the gesture you made reminded me of the notion of even-handedness. And this is one of the things that I want to thank you for the understanding, and what you say is reassuring, that while seeing the drawbacks, you are not in a hurry to condemn anyone for this. Thank you. There's a question from to address to Inna Antipova from Dmytro Sidorov. But first, I would like to address a couple of questions to Mr. Ramazanov, if he's still with us. No, I think that the representative of the Ministry of Energy has left our conference. Well, anyway, then there's a question to Ms. Antipova. If the European Commission imposes price caps for TTF Club, what consequences of the decision can you predict?
Well, so first I would like to say that in practice, I would say that it's quite difficult to impose the caps on TTF Hub, because now TTF Hub is actually traded freely, so it would be difficult to cap something. Also, it is my view that I think that capping TTF Hub reminds a little bit of shooting the messenger rather than solving the problem. So it's not that indeed the TTF hubs are higher than, for example, other hubs, and this could be easily demonstrated by some infographics and statistics for the last. So it's higher, for example, as NBP hub, which is located in UK, but there are objective reasons to explain this difference. So in my view, capping TTF hub would not solve the problem, but it would rather demonstrate. So the prices at the TTF hub and the higher prices of TTF hub demonstrated there is a problem which should be solved, and we all know what is the problem. It's the problem with the prices. It's the problem with the gas. But the consequences would be so first. I would say that probably this could provoke a crisis at the market. Second, I think that for most of the buyers, it would be logical not to sell at TTF hub if the price is capped, and also it would be a sign for the European players not to just to keep the gas in storage and not to sell it, not to have any problems, because we all understand that the gas markets in Europe function in strong connection to the financial markets. So trying and attempt to cap the prices would result not only in the consequences for the gas market but also for the financial markets, and so maybe to a certain extent this could be similar to the consequences that we had in 2008-2009 when we had financial crisis with banks. So for me, I think that the most likely outcome at the gas market would be that less gas would be delivered to the European gas market, as it could flow to the other more liquid markets without gas caps, and more gas would remain in storage and would not get withdrawn. So that's my opinion, that actually capping TTF prices would not result in.
Thank you very much for this prompt yet detailed and well-grounded reply to the question. Now we have the question to Mr. Mezovets. The fall of consumers' solvency during the war, how it affected the level of payments for gas?
It's a quite hard situation for everyone in Ukraine. So not so many consumers continuing their work because of Russian aggression. And I can say everyone supports your counterparty in this very hard situation. I can just think, I can just say these words because I think no one in our country can provide correct information about your question. That's all I can say.
All right.
But of course, the level of payments it's quite low comparing last year, of course. But real level of lowering payments, it's unpredictable now.
Okay. We'll see later. Anyway,
Yep.
Even when Mr. Mizovets does not have exact information, his knowledge of the market and of the situation provides him with an opportunity to give a reasonable explanation and depiction of what's going on. My next question goes to Mr. Shikirinis, and it's about balance in the market in wartime condition. Is it attainable at all?
Thank you for your question. First of all, I would like to stress that from the first days of war aggression, transmission system operator proposed to Ministry and to NERC and also to Cabinet of Ministers to impose the regulation according to which we would not have a market-based market during the war period, and proposed to establish one state-owned company which will be only single one market participant, and all gas which injects in the system and all gas which withdraw from the system will be offtakes and incomes of such one market participant. And after the end of the war period, during the post rehabilitation period, these all market participants, producers and customers and suppliers, active suppliers of such customers which were registered in suppliers register before the start of the war, will sit together and will overcome this situation. Which gas was used and which gas was consumed, and will settle their financial obligations. But such idea was not developed, and according to the provisions of regulation of Ministry of Energy 110, there were imposed market-based rules with small extras. For example, TSO shall not use small adjustment when it's calculate marginal price and imbalance charge. TSO shall not use the multipliers for booked products of short term, only use the value of annual product of capacity. So TSO really with great opportunity, with great cope with this situation, but as I already mentioned, we didn't cope with unauthorized offtakes. So, the main, not a problem, but the main aspect which shall be discussed is the new post-months system of balancing, which really stopped the activity of daily balancing system. Why I shall call it residual balancing system in a war period. This residual balancing system foresees that after the end of the gas months, up to 11th day M+1, public service obligation supplier and its counterparties, DSOs and local supply company who sells gas to households can change its trade notification and withdrawal volumes which they withdrew or input in underground storage facilities. So such system really makes harm to daily balancing system, because after the end of the month we have preliminary allocations, and operator was maintaining the system and used some balancing actions. But after this corrections of and changing of trade notifications and withdrawals from a system, some market participant can stress that the activity of TSO was wrong, because as a result of such residual balancing system, we have the opposite situation. Sometimes preliminary allocation during the gas days of current gas months can show us that cumulative imbalance of a system is negative. So we are in a short position, but after such change of trade notifications and withdrawal from an underground storage system, we would have the final allocation, which will be rather different, and we would have not a cumulative imbalance, but we would have a cumulative positive imbalance quantity. So I would like to mention and to say that the words of Frederick is really true, because we have a balancing system of a daily balancing system which is not proper functioning, because we have a residual balancing monthly system, and to say that we have a real functioning market according to and in line with EU regulations, it's not true. So we try to save some market-based businesses and market-based rules, but in a very limited scope, and have a residual monthly balancing system in whole Ukraine. That is my private position and public position of the TSO.
Thank you very much. Your private position is very valuable too, as one of the important actors on the market and in the sphere. And of course, if this is supported by any group or organization, it becomes even weightier. I think I have run out of my questions to the participants. So once again, I offer you an opportunity to ask or to react to what other people have said. If no one wants to use this opportunity, I think we shall sum up the discussion. Anyone who wants to make closing remarks is welcome. No. Then I'll try. Yes, please, Mr. Natsvin Stepanov.
Thank you. I only wanted to repeat and make some highlights about our position. So again, first of all, if there will not be a source of the gas, there will not be natural gas market at all. With the resource of gas produced by state producers or private producers, or also imported from the abroad, we could make inner Ukraine market benchmark, price benchmark. With price benchmark that will be related to Ukraine prices, we could make logical public service obligations, because when we would have inner price level, we could clearly understand is it affordable for all consumers, and for what category of consumers it is not affordable. So therefore we could define and clearly define the categories of consumers that we could mention, like protected customers or vulnerable consumers. And the third one is gas release program. We need to start improving and implement gas release program in Ukraine to make a start of the market from the beginning after the war. And I think we must think of the consequences of Naftogaz monopolization, because after the war will end, there will be only one market participant, and we all need to know how to make a deal, or how to make some relations with this, and how to make Naftogaz and how to reduce its market value and market representation. And I think it's a question that it should be think about in the future. So thank you, and that's my view.
Thank you very much. And the fact that people are thinking about after the war, during the war, gives additional reassurance to us, and makes us believe that if after the war some people would say, we do not want to conduct any further reforms, because first we have to fix the situation as it is, I think that people who have spoken today will not tolerate this and do whatever they can, and they can quite a lot, can do quite a lot, in order for the reform to resume and continue. And if no one wants to chip in with this, I pronounce this session closed. However, before we disperse, and I address this both to the participants and to those who will be watching this video, I remind you that on the 24th of November, the Ukrainian Energy Exchange, the Association of Gas Traders of Ukraine, the All Ukrainian Energy Assembly, and the Energy Club business community will hold a charity auction where 4 exclusive lots will be offered, and all the proceeds from the sale will go to the needs of the armed forces of Ukraine. Thank you, everyone, for your active participation, and keep up the good work. Take care. Bye-bye.
Digitalization is changing the way we live and work. The question of how people will live in the future is one that we all decide together. On all continents, in all countries of the world. These challenges are great opportunities for all of us. The global society of the future needs our know-how, creativity, and passion. Needs us to pave the way for sustainable development in all important sectors. Together, we can give the right answers to the questions of today and tomorrow. Together, we will pave the way to the all-electric society, and thus make a significant contribution to a sustainable future for the global society. Empowering the all-electric society.
Українська армія успішно наступає на півдні України та на Донбасі. Перемога здобувається кров'ю наших воїнів. Просто пам'ятайте, зараз кожної миті мирні Київ, Львів, Хмельницький, Черкаси, Чернівці починаються в Бахмуті, Херсоні, Криму. Вже вдруге енергетична бізнес-спільнота оголошує благодійний аукціон. Це інвестиція в наше майбутнє. Всі кошти від продажу лотів будуть передані Збройним силам України для зміцнення бойової міці нашої армії. Кошти від попереднього аукціону вже працюють на перемогу. Допомагайте Збройним силам України. З нами Бог, з нами генерал Валерій Залужний та наші титани українське військо. Дякуємо всім, хто допомагає. Ми сильні, коли ми разом.